Is that Boris?
So, yeah, I guess...
Yeah, we're gonna have to abandon it there, I'm afraid. Fucking hell. Oh, jeez.
What the fuck was that?
Oh, that was a weird place. What
It was.
It was so dark. Strange.
I can see again.
Yeah. If you want to see it.
Oh god! Oh. Chapter 8. 08:41 hours. Dragan the Serb had been winged on tales of heroic assassination and glorious betrayal.
For fuck.
From the Battle of Kosovo Pole onwards, Serbs have learned to glory in a sense of victimhood. But today he decided to give the national myth a miss. Already, like, the chapter starts and it's just racism.
Yeah.
He pushed away Haroun and his spike and thudded off. Weaving and Oh, yeah, right, okay. He pushed away Haroun and his spike and thudded off, weaving his shoulders...
Started early.
He pushed away Haroun and his spike and thudded off, weaving and shoulders hunched, as though with every yard he expected a bullet in his back from the Kosovo Liberation Army. He will not let this go, will he? This fictional Serb that he has put in here, and he will not have it.
Well, no joke, because it's a comedy. It's
Oh.
funny. It's some jokes, isn't it? It's all a bit of banter.
Bit of tracky bants, is it?
Yeah, it's a bit of tracky bum banter.
He sprinted from the Muslim extremists down Tufton Street, past the, in brackets, former Society for the Propagation of the Gospel in Foreign Parts, founded in 1701, and turned onto Great Peter Street. He weaved one way, he ducked the other, and broke his spine. The Serb splitting of Great Peter Street. Haroun watched him go. "Leave him," called Jones. "We have no time." Dean already felt he had a good reason to be admiring of Jones, but he was amazed at the self-possession with which his boss now began to unload the ambulance from the tow truck. "Whoa!" he called, as the telescopic arm of the crane jerked into life.
Easy, girl! Oh! Tries to buck him up.
The arm was powered by 3 separate hydraulic lifts, and in theory they were well capable of lifting a 3.5-ton ambulance. But Jones was in such a hurry that he neglected the basic laws of physics. "Hey!" said Dean, as the white machine was swung out over the street like some mad medieval siege engine. That's actually a pretty good description of Boris Johnson, isn't it? A mad medieval siege engine. Haroun gave a curse. Something nasty about a dog, Dean guessed.
Why would you guess that? That's so specific. What?
He must be saying something nasty about a dog.
He's always doing that.
Even Habib broke off from flossing with his juniper twig. "You need to come back a bit," shouted Dean over the roar of the Renault engine. I mean, they literally could have just said, and he used the tow truck to...
Yeah,
None
none
of this is necessary. Like, he's got to get to that word.
Exactly,
Yeah.
the fact that we're literally like pages.
Yeah.
in, like,
And what, about 90% of it has been filled out? The front wheels of the tow truck were now on the verge of leaving the ground.
Oh, it's gonna tip over and all everything.
To me, do you?
Yeah.
Black smoke was coming from the exhaust. The whole thing was about to keel over, and Dean instinctively ran to drag the body of Eric the Warden out of the way. It is fine, shouted Jones, and flipped the next toggle so that their stolen machine crashed back towards them and bust a tail light on the bed of the tow truck. Bust a tail light.
Bust the tail light.
He's like Buster Blood Vessel. Buster tail light. He's the American. I thought you were a proud Englishman, Boris.
Yeah. Is he gonna go upside someone's tyre iron?
Yeah, man. And blaze a stogie. "Do it like this," called Habib quietly in Arabic. Habib was also called Freddy and came from a good Lebanese family. Habib was also called Freddy and came from a good Lebanese fact. That's great writing, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I suppose he's probably imagining that his audience are not going to be able to keep up with a name like Habib.
Yes.
So, Freddie! Something they're more used to.
Freddie, yes, Freddie.
Thankfully, Islamic terrorist.
Habib was
Freddie.
also called Freddie. Well, I call him Freddie.
Yeah.
What's the name, son? Habib. Freddie, I'll call you Freddie.
Yeah, take these traggy bombs, you damnable oik. You should be my Freddie.
He was a takfiri, a man who masked the ferocity of his faith with a sympathetic worldliness, and he had spent enough time in gambling houses to understand the principles of the grabby machines you use to pick up a watch or a fluffy toy.
I feel the term gambling house implies a kind of class that a fucking claw machine does not have.
Yeah. Sort of smoky back room, they're all sat around with whiskey. It's 3 in the morning. He's 100 grand down, but if he can just grab that Pokemon teddy.
Matt Damon, John Malkovich. He's got the fucking grammar. Give that man his money.
Together, and with what Dean thought was remarkable coolness, he and Jones worked out how to ease in the last extender arm, and, in hydraulic pants, the van was lowered to the ground. I'm assuming he means pants as in breathing heavily rather than
a pair of hydraulic pants.
He put on his hydraulic
That's another perfect metaphor for Boris himself. A pair of hydraulic pants.
With the speed of Formula 1 pit stopman, they now undid pit stopman. That's not what they call themselves, is it? Like, there is a mid pit stopman.
Sahavi pit stopman.
For fuck's sake. With the speed of a Formula 1 pit stopman, they now undid the metal crabs and Hessian straps, bunged them on the back of the tow truck, and loaded poor Eric in the back of the ambulance. Haroon paused only to read the sign on the side of the Renault. Oh, how ease my driving, he said, and laughed, a horrible carking yelp. This one's for all the racism there has been thus far in this chapter.
All the racism. This one's for all the racism.
No one took any notice of them as they drove in full conformity with the laws of the road, apart from the tail light, in the direction of the Palace of Westminster. They began thereby to catch up with Roger Barlow, who was waiting with his bike at a red traffic light. What's next for our hero, Roger Barlow? Will he be able to escape the claws of the evil Arab terrorists? Tune in next week. Find out! Christ. Key Riced.
Sea wrist. Chapter 9, 08:43 hours. Barlow's thoughts of political extinction had taken a philosophical turn. That's not like him. The philosophy of fucking pederasty. He's an Oedipal philosopher. Did it matter? Of course not. The fate of the human race was hardly affected. The sun would still, at appointed date 4 billion years hence, expand to the girth of a red giant and devour the planet. In the great scheme of things, his extermination was about as important as the accidental squashing of a snail.
I think that is incredibly telling about Boris Johnson. I think when he passes laws and votes on policy that will literally kill thousands of people, he probably thinks that to himself. Oh, well, in the great scheme of things, it's no big deal because in 4 billion years or whatever, the fucking sun will expand to the girth of a red giant and engulf the planet.
Yeah.
So fuck it.
That's
Humans.
his political view.
Yeah, that is his political view.
Ideology.
Humans are basically snails, so bollocks.
Yeah, and so when you accidentally step on them, it's no big deal.
Yeah, and when you deliberately step on them, same thing.
Much of a muchness, really, isn't it? In it.
Checky buttons, innit? I need a new pair of checky buttons, innit?
Freddie!
Fetch me my new pair of checky buttons. Fetch me my gilded checky buttons.
My guilt.
my gilded checky buttons.
The trouble was that until that happy day when he was reincarnated as a louse or a baked bean, he didn't know how he was going to explain the idiotic behaviour of his brief human avatar. So this is how Boris sees himself, as like just waiting for death, praying to abandon his embarrassing human form so that he might embrace the sweet release of death and become a woodlouse. It wasn't the sex comedy side of things, it wasn't the waste of money, the cash that should have gone into Weetabix and plastic guns for shooting him in bed. It was the gullibility, That was what worried him. Should he wait for the papers to present this appalling Hieronymus Bosch version of his life, or should he try to give his account first, and thereby win points for frankness? Hang on a tick. There was a colleague, swishing down the pavement, hair cut by Trumpers, suit cut by Savile Row. It was Adrian (Ziggy) Roberts. What the fuck is
Ziggy Roberts.
The fact he keeps putting nicknames
in brackets.
It's
Yeah.
Why are you doing
Yeah,
that?
just...
Why are you doing these things? Bright, forceful, decisive. Very far from completely unbearable, in fact, by any standards. Really rather nice.
That's the best thing you can say about someone.
Praise Boris Johnson can get.
He's almost not insufferable.
Roger conceived a desire to talk to him. So refreshingly on time. Not least because he could see under his arm the early edition of the Evening Standard.
God.
Ziggy old man, called Roger Barlow, curb crawling on his bike.
I bet he fucking was.
Hombre, replied Ziggy.
Oh, what a character.
Yeah, that's why he's called Ziggy, because he's so crazy. Oh, Ned, you're so crazy. You going to this Westminster Hall business? God no, said Ziggy, who had benefited from the most expensive education England can provide. Can't be arsed. Roger felt welling up in himself the urge to confide in a friend. A problem shared, he whispered to himself, is a problem halved. He actually said this out loud. Can I ask you something, Ziggs? So, Ziggy is not enough of a nickname, he's now Ziggs. Zigzer. Zigzag.
The Zigzer, the
Zig
Zigmaster.
Yes.
Fuck toffs.
Yeah, they suck balls.
Fucking zigs.
Roger looked at his colleague, his high, clear forehead, his myriad certainties. On second thoughts, no. Ziggy counted as a friend, but it was, in the end, your friends who did you in. And quite right, too. That was what friends were for.
Hey, Freddy, bring it on, Freddy.
That posh suit, said Barlow. Just tell me roughly how much. But Ziggy's answer was lost in the noise of the twin squirrel Eurocopter. Blimey, thought Barlow. This was worse than the helicopter paranoia scene in Goodfellas.
He's letting you know that he's seen Goodfellas.
Yeah, Goodfellas. Barely Chaps by Martin Scorsese. Wait a sec, said the co-pilot of the chopper as they bullocked over towards the embankment. He craned backwards the way they had come, and the city of Westminster, touching in its majesty, was reflected in the black visor of his helmet. Like, what are these comments?
The city of Westminster, touching in its majesty.
Blinks a tear to my eye. Like, he just keeps making these bizarre little, asides. I just realised. Say again, yodeled the pilot into the mic on his
Yodeled? Fucking yodeled! So you go...
Yodeled the pilot. I think we just flew over it. It was on a tow truck. I didn't really take it in. The pilot sighed and turned the joystick. Well, he said a little later, there's your tow truck, but I don't see any ambulance. The co-pilot stared. It may have been unusual for an ambulance to be hoisted, but it was positively unheard of for a vehicle of any kind to escape the clutches of a tow truck operator. Where's the driver anyway? He asked himself.
He's fleeing the fucking...
The Croatian death squads.
The Croatian death squads in his mind. He's all PTSD'd up and he thinks the fucking Croats are coming for him. We could get fucking Phoenix to play him. Brilliant.
Here, thought Dragon, panicked. Down here, look this way. No use, they couldn't see him. Dragon had a pretty good idea what he had witnessed, the shambolic beginning of something that might end with eternal loss and heartache for thousands of families. He had read about the idiotic punch-up outside Boston's Logan Airport on the morning of 9/11 itself. But mere incompetence was no guarantee of failure, as he knew from his own soldiering. Dragan looked down towards Marsham Street. He saw a building site. He saw men in yellow hats and muddy boots. Tough men who could help. He was older and fatter than he had been as a purple pajamaed Serb MUP man, and he was soaked with sweat. And though he had absolutely no reason to love the United States, not after what they had done to Serbia, he stamped and grunted as fast as his Reeboks would carry him. Hey, he shouted. Help, please. Dark faces looked up. Dragan put his hands on his knees in exhaustion. and began to explain to the immigrant builders that there was a plot against America. Chapter 10. 08:44 hours. "I'm starting to think we should warn the Yanks," said Deputy Assistant Commissioner Purnell. Get used to hearing that. "You mean about the ambulance?" said Grover. "What makes you think they don't know already?" But when Purnell came to dial Blewett, he once again found himself changing his mind. Why raise the temperature? He cleared his throat when Blewett picked up, and was on the point of improvising some excuse when the American cut in. "Mr. Deputy Commissioner, we have a problem." "Oh yes," said Purnell. "I know. I mean, what problem?"
What? Actually, that's written there.
Yeah, it actually says that.
Oh. To be fair though, to the mind of Boris Johnson, that's probably like a perfectly valid way of getting out.
It's a great recovery from Boris Johnson's mind, yeah. "We've got reports of helicopter activity right over the cavalcade route, and the Black Hawk needs to go that way. ... said Purnell. "We need that Black Hawk in the aerial vicinity at all times, and neither of us wants a mid-air collision." This is excited stuff. "Unbelievable," he told Grover when the conversation was over. "We've got just over an hour till the President starts speaking, and the Americans are fussing about the French ambassador's girlfriend. They say they don't want her in the hall." The trouble with today, thought Purnell, was that if something did go wrong, no one could say they hadn't been warned.
I want to hear more about the French ambassador's girlfriend. That sounds like a parlour song, you know, like some bawdy, like... "Oh, the French ambassador's girlfriend."
"I'm frightfully naughty." "Bomb scare hits London," read Roger Barlow, continuing to steal shifty looks at Ziggy's Standard.
Is that a euphemism?
It's a euphemism for his incredibly long penis. Very thin and very long. Of course, there was nothing about him. He felt like laughing at his own egocentricity. There was something... Again, just a fucking use of language. Yeah. There was something prurient about the way he wanted to read about his own destruction, just as there was something weird about the way he had been impelled down the course he had followed. Maybe he wasn't a genuine acratic. Maybe it would be more accurate to say he had a Thanatos urge. So refreshingly unbothered.
Fuck you, Boris. Fuck you in your toff-eaten arse.
People who don't know what eaten is, said is eaten arse.
Well, either or, man, either or.
By this time next week, he thought, there would be nothing left for him to do but go on daytime TV shows. Perhaps in 10 years' time, he might be sufficiently rehabilitated to be offered the part of Widow Twanky at the Salvation Army Hall in Horsham. Yeah, I have no idea what the fuck he's talking about.
I don't give a fuck, to be honest.
"Catch you round then," said Barlow to Ziggy. "Chow chow," called Ziggy. Chow.
Chow.
The man of efficiency and ambition, he flashed his pink pea form and was admitted to the security bubble. For the 8th time that morning, Barlow presented his bike for inspection by the authorities. Roadblock was too modest a word for the Atlantic wall of concrete that the anti-terrorist mob had put in Parliament Square.
I thought Boris Johnson didn't like terrorists.
Yeah,
I mean, obviously, apart from
he's
the
very
DUP, he likes the
conflicted.
DUP.
Yeah, the Tories have always been very conflicted when it comes to terrorists.
Yeah.
They love them and they hate them.
Yeah.
I wonder what the difference is between the ones they love and the ones they hate. If only there was an easy way of showing two pictures side by side that would show that difference clearly.
Do you reckon someone will ever do that?
We'll never know.
Not in our lifetime.
Each lithon of black-painted aggregate was packed with steel and designed to withstand 83 newtons of force, or a suicide ram raid with a chieftain tank.
I love the idea of a suicide ram raid, because to me ram raiding is what you do to an off licence, you know what I mean?
I think I've noticed. I don't know how to drive!
"Whoa there, sir," said a 16.5-stone American man with a kind of transparent plastic curly-whirly coming out of his ear and disappearing into his collar.
Funny, Freddy. Read on, Freddy.
Barlow had grown up in the Cold War, and when at school he had read Thucydides. It had been obvious to him that America was the modern Athens, energetic, pluralistic, the guarantor of democracy and freedom. Therefore infinitely to be preferred to the Soviet Union, closed, nasty, militaristic, the modern Sparta. But now, on being intercepted by an enormous Kansan, just feet away from the statue of Winston Churchill, he felt his gorge rise.
How the fuck does he know he's Kansan?
Well, Boris was born in America.
Oh, he was, wasn't he?
Yeah, he's a New Yorker.
Yeah.
The fucking the Pfeffels.
What the fuck is with the Pfeffel?
What the fuck are the fuck at the Pfeffel? This fucking guy! Oh! Paulie's gonna tell me.
Hey, fucking the Pfeffel!
He's a malignant cunt. Excuse me for saying so. His eyes prickled with irritation. I am a member of parliament. I do love that. His ridiculous idealistic version of the Cold War is immediately dashed to pieces by encountering a single American that's impeding his progress. In this minor inconvenience. And then he gazes wistfully up at Churchill. And is like, oh, look at what indignity I'm made to suffer in your eyes. Again, it's this like alleged comedy that's masking like his actual attitude.
Exactly.
He should just be allowed to breeze through life.
Yes.
And that his most core beliefs can be shattered by being minorly inconvenienced by an individual. Oh, damn it all, he added. Though as luck would have it, his curse was lost in the noise of the Metropolitan Police twin squirrel swinging high and away towards Victoria. Had he looked 200 feet behind him, he would have seen the ambulance come to a halt in the queue for the very same traffic lights come checkpoint. Is that like lights, camera, action? Lights, come, checkpoint! Oh dear. Sitting at the wheel, Jones swore. Any minute now, the cavalcade would be upon them. He looked at the Americans, checking each vehicle with glacial deliberation, and checked his watch. "Air fe mabda ak," he said, which means, my cock in your principles. Oh, well, thanks for that, Boris. Air fe mabda ak, Boris. The cavalcade was now approximately 27 minutes away from Parliament Square. The two permanent protectees, as they were known, to the 950 American agents in London, were in a Cadillac DeVille, so fortified it was a wonder it could move. Permanent protectee number 1 shuffled the papers of his speech and touched the hand of permanent protectee number 2. It was an insane way to travel, but kind of fun. The cavalcade mounted the ramparted expressway at the end of the M4, and West London was spread out beneath them in the morning sun. Again, how can he keep doing this? Like a beautiful woman surprised in bed without her makeup. What a fucking creep!
What do you mean by that?
Surprised!
That's what,
the word.
Yeah, surprised in bed. So what, you just walk into women's bedrooms?
Yeah, at 11 o'clock at night.
Exactly, yeah. Do you do that, Boris? Do you break into women's houses at night? Does our Prime Minister break into women's houses at night and surprise them in bed?
Yeah, Joe, did you not know that? Didn't you read the paper this morning? Gee, said the second permanent protectee. Ain't that something? She smiled at her husband, but secretly she was worried. She knew about the abortive raids on the Islamist cells. That was why she had furtively telephoned Colonel Blewett and begged him to take extra precautions. Blewett had been frankly amazed, but also pleased to be made her confidant. Yes, ma'am, he said. Never mind what the Brits say. That place is going to be full of my people. I mean some of our top men. As the cavalcade began to crawl the last 9 miles of its journey, a hatch was opening on the roof of the east wing of the Palace of Westminster. In the cool shadow of Big Ben, out scrambled the sizable... Ah, God, here's another Boris Johnson insert. Out scrambled the sizable figure of Lieutenant Jason Pickle. His name is actually Pickle.
Oh, Fuck, I assumed that was like a stupid ass code
Yeah,
name.
no, his name is actually Pickle. LT Pickle. He stood for a moment on the duckboards, 120 feet above New Palace Yard, listening to the honking of horns down the embankment, the protesters bleating to each other, like ewes in some distant fold. Cunt.
Yeah.
I mean, that must be a sound you're very used to now, Boris, seeing as you seem to be surrounded by protesters wherever you go. He held out his hand and squinted at it. He stopped the tremor by gripping his sniper's rifle and walked on down the duckboard until he found a point of vantage.
Point of vantage. Fuck off.
Are you alright, Jason? Asked Sergeant Indira Nath, who had followed him up. Indira had been specifically deputed to stay with Pickle on the orders of Deputy Assistant Commissioner Stephen Purnell. Not that the British cops had any reason to think of Pickle as a risk. It was just there were strong winds heading in from the west and a significant risk of... It was just that if you were going to have a Yank sharpshooter on the East Wing roof, and Blewett was very keen, then there was damn well going to be a Brit to accompany him.
Aye.
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 Aye. Easy. Easy.
Easy. Easy.
Indira was from the SO-19 firearms unit. She had huge eyes. Right, here we go. We have to immediately...
Fuck.
She had huge eyes, rosy lips, and tiny, delicate hands. You okay? She repeated. It's just that something gave me goosebumps here. I guess you could call it dad flashbacks.
What?
Dad flashbacks, wondered Indira. It sounded like something worrying from Sheila Kitzinger's Baby and Child Care.
Yeah.
That common point of reference all women presumably share. She looked at her neighbour on the roof. He was big and blonde, with a proud nose and heavy brow, and hands that made his rifle barrel look like a pencil. He was dressed in olive drab fatigues, and had the name Pickle sewn in black capitals on his chest. His bare chest.
Yeah.
She hoped he wasn't going to blab about some deathbed reconciliation with the father who never loved him. Yeah, honey, it's like a Nam flashback, except it's about Baghdad.
Oh. We were in the dad.
In the dad.
I spent a whole year in the
6 months in a dad. 6 months in a dad? Damn right. Tell me about it, Jason, said Indira as they settled down together. Were you scared? Scared? Did you say scared? What?
I perforated both my eardrums in bed.
Geez, what the hell was that? The American went rigid as percussive waves filled the air. He instinctively... Oh my God, for God's sake. He instinctively eased off the safety catch, and now, bong! The second explosion assailed his eardrums. The whole roof vibrated as Big Ben sounded the opening carillon of 9:15. Americans have never heard bells.
Chapter 11. 08:45 hours. The great clock struck, and Jones cursed. Something about a dog again. In brackets.
That's confirmation from the narrator that Dean's guess was correct. What is happening?
What is he saying about a dog? Like, you know, boom,
Yeah.
boom, oh, fuck a dog.
Fuck dogs.
Yeah, he thinks every loud noise is a dog, because when he was a kid, dogs used to bark and keep him awake at night, so now he thinks every loud noise is a dog.
When he was young, there was this dog that lived next door and it was really big. He thinks that the dog has gotten bigger proportionally to him. So he thinks there's some dog somewhere that's like 25 stories tall. What is happening?
Fuck knows, mate. The longer they stayed in this traffic jam, the higher their chances of being spotted. Surely the tow truck man would by now have raised the alarm. An electronic voice interrupted them. It was female and spoke in an American accent. Turn left now, she said. Haroon cursed. It was the sat-nav, determined to take the vehicle back to Wolverhampton. Soon we will be in the belly of the beast, said Jones. Make a U-turn, said the sat-nav. and then turn right in 100 yards.
This
Is hilarious.
Classic.
Sat-nav comedy.
my favourite kind of comedy.
The voice of the bossy little robot carried... The voice of the bossy little robot carried through the driver's window and might have reached the ears of Roger Barlow, who was now only a matter of a few feet away, except that he was turned away and bent over.
He's getting to know this Kansan boy.
He was trying to lock his bike against the railings of St. Margaret's. "Not there, sir," said an American. "Where?" "Not there either, sir. I'm afraid you will have to take it with you." Barlow stood on the pavement with his bike, like some washed-up crab.
Is that what it says? For fuck's sake.
Barlow, he has fallen very fucking low since Salem's Lot, hasn't he?
He's somehow fallen lower since his son started fucking his wife. He's now fucking even lower, apparently.
As he approached his 52nd year, Roger was conscious that his temper was decreasingly frenetic. He had long since ceased to rave at airport check-ins.
God, what happened to you, Roger?
Yeah.
You used to be a right cunt.
You're
Now
only
you're
a-
just pathetic. You're just a pathetic cunt.
If his train was delayed for 2 hours, it no longer occurred to him to sob and squeal into his mobile. But there was something about being told what to do by this gigantic, gone-to-seed quarterback that got, frankly, on his tits.
For fuck's sake. Also, Boris, do you fancy a bit of rugger?
Yeah.
You're going to start fucking
Yeah,
looking
yeah.
down your nose?
Yeah.
Oh, gone-to-seed quarterback. Oh, how dare you?
Yeah.
Oh, do you know who I am?
Yeah.
I'm a 52-year-old fucking washed-up crab. Don't you know? That's funny. I just wanted to quickly say, I obviously knew that one day it would come that we would have a sex scene in one of these books. I feel like this is now the best chance we've had of that actually happening.
Do you know, I hadn't even considered that. Oh, that's going to be harrowing. The Yank was wearing those clod-hopping American lace-ups with Cornish pasty welts, a Brooks Brothers button-down shirt and a large blue blazer. He had the Kevin Costner-ish Germanic looks that you see in so many members of the American military.
I don't think any of us expected him to say that.
Well, can I borrow your mobile? I need to get this blasted pass from my assistant, Freddie. Barlow was fed up with the moronic anti-American protesters who were fringing the square and bawling their questions about oil and how many kids Nestle had killed that day. They're moronic. They're so stupid that they have a problem with wars being fought for oil and with Nestle killing children.
Yeah.
How fucking stupid. Boris, look, I'm on page 41 of your book, right? So you don't get to call anyone fucking moronic. I have read this. You're a fucking idiot.
Also, anti-American.
Yeah, exactly.
We're going to talk about
That's what I'm saying.
anti-Americanism.
He's just spent
What
this
the
entire chapter calling them Yanks.
Anti-American.
They're all Yanks.
Yep.
Oh, those clod-hopping American lace-up, and they all look like Kevin Costner.
Yeah, which, frankly, is one of the worst insults I've ever heard. Not really, Kevin.
I'm sorry.
You're the finest actor of your generation. We love you.
Waterworld, eh?
Yep. Well,
Eh?
what a world. I mean...
To be honest, it's probably the
Becoming
most
more and more
accurate.
prescient.
Yeah. But he was also fed up with being treated like a terrorist when he was a bleeding parliamentarian.
Like Arlene Foster.
Come on, Arlene. The people of Cirencester had sent him to this place, and it was frankly frigging outrageous that he should be denied access by this Yank.
Never!
We say never!
It was frankly frigging outrageous that he should be denied access by this Yank. Not that he wanted to be anti-American, of course.
It's a bit fucking late
Yeah.
for that, dude.
They'll vouch for me, he said, pointing to a trio of shirt-sleeved, flak-jacketed Heckler and Koch MP5 toting members of the Met? No, they wouldn't. Sorry, Mr. Barlow, sir, said one of them. I am afraid you've got to have a pink form today. It's all been agreed with the White House. Well, can I use your phone then? They'll have my guts for garters, sir. But there you go. Cameron had just reached the office and was tackling the mail. I'll come now, she said, when he explained the problem. Roger handed back the phone to the Metropolitan Policeman and stared again at the American.
God, such exquisite command of the language.
Excuse me, I think you really ought to let me through, because I was elected to serve in this building and you have absolutely no jurisdiction here. You shall be hearing from my Freddy.
My boy.
You shall be hearing from my nanny. I know, sir, said the human refrigerator, and he touched the curly-whirly tube in his ear and mumbled into the smarty on his lapel. Okay, boomer. I'm not disagreeing with you, sir. Not at all. I have no doubt that you are who you say you are, and I really apologise for this procedure. But my orders say clearly that I don't let anyone through today without a pink P form, and if anyone gets through today who shouldn't get through today, then my arse is grass. You dig?
If Wonton gets wind of this, my arse is grass, and he's got a lawnmower. You dig?
10-4.
I'm not history. I'm not biology. I'm physics. Wait, Joe, who are those guys? What?
I'm physics. Wait, what?
I'm not history. I'm not biology. I'm physics. Wait, Joe, who are those guys? I think maybe he's an android.
I think he's having a fucking aneurysm. Here come the Muslims. It's about time, frankly, because I'm getting sick of all these cunts.
It's about time these pricks got blown up.
Yeah,
by
it's
some
about time
Islamic
an
terrorists.
explosion killed some of these bastards, because frankly, the less there are of them, the better.
Everything without a pass was being sent up Victoria Street, but now an ambulance had drawn up at the checkpoint. The linebacker was staring at it, but Roger wanted his attention. May I see your ID? He said. He knew he was being a pompous twit, but honestly, this was London. We'll have to put a laugh track in. This book should come with like a laugh track that like you play along so you know.
Those kids' books.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should have that.
Maybe we should do one of those for our next Blind Drunk.
Yeah.
Because this is fucking lamentable. The American Secret Service man opened his wallet and produced a badge. Is that okay? Roger couldn't help it. These credentials should mean nothing to him. Not in the streets of London. But he felt a childish sense of reverence. Yes, that is okay. Just wait here, sir, said the American, and he strolled past towards the ambulance driven by the man whose passport said he was called Jones.
So what?
He's not Welsh then.
Jones?
So yeah, presumably he's not Welsh.
It's told us that his voice had an unmistakably Welsh.
Oh yeah, it did. Yeah.
Voice.
Oh, fuck knows. How are you guys today? He inquired, removing his shades, the ones with the little nick in the corner, and holding out his hand for their papers.
That's what I was going to say.
At the next junction, turn left, said the female Dalek of the ambulance sat-nav. What's that? Said Matt, the USSS man. She is a machine, said Jones. She is stupid. She is nothing. He's talking about Theresa May. As Roger Barlow saw the Levantine featured fellow hand... What? The queue behind set up a parping, and down to the embankment the noise of the protesters reached an aero engine howl. Set up a parping.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I'm gonna drink.
Yeah, you can't stop me, Boris, alright? You little fascist dog.
We gotta clear this stretch of road more quickly. We've got the cavalcade in around 20 minutes. We've got POTUS coming through. POTUS coming through, said Joe, and slapped the flank of the ambulance as if it were a steer. You boys better get out of the way. Get! They're all in cowboy hats and that. They're all got Stetsons on and they're all chewing tobacco. They're all got they're all armed with peacemakers.
Lever action.
Yeah, fucking lasso.
Lasso the ambulance.
Yeah, the tow truck couldn't keep it up.
A good old Kansas boy.
You know it really isn't possible, he murmured as the ambulance went slowly round the back of the green and came to a halt at the traffic lights. I saw those guys a few moments ago. Another thought half-formed in his depleted brain. Chapter 12, 08:51 hours. 6 miles away, the cavalcade circled the Hogarth roundabout, and the first permanent protectee shifted in the bulletproof undershirt he had been forced to wear.
He's got this bulletproof long john. He is POTUS after all. Even the long stalk of corn that hangs out his mouth is bulletproof.
He looked out of the window and was startled to see a trio of English children, aged no more than 11 or 12, leering in at him from the side of the road.
Toothless fucking
children.
urchins.
They were thugged up.
What?
They were thugged up in their grey tracksuit hoods. They were spotty. They were giving him an enthusiastic two-fingered salute.
They sound alright to me. I mean,
Yeah. I guess those guys would rather Saddam was still in power.
what?
Said the second permanent protector
What?
indignantly and took her husband's hand.
Fucking
children,
what?
like-
Yeah, that's what that means.
Yeah.
When you go like that
Yeah.
at the president, it
It
means
means
you're a
you wish Saddam,
staunch supporter of Saddam
The Ba'ath
Hussein's
Party.
Ba'ath Party. What the fuck are you talking about?
And now Blewett's top man, the sharpest sharpshooter in the US Army, was looking out from his area across Parliament Square and trying to wish the bad feeling away. Here and there across the crowd, the bleats were turning into anti-American chorus, and it took Jason Pickle back to the rhythms of the cretinous song the Iraqis sang. The song of adulation of a man who had tortured and killed thousands. Some said hundreds of thousands of his own people.
Again, like he's literally trying to draw parallels directly
Yes,
from
yeah,
protesting American imperialism
Yeah, and-
means that you must support Saddam Hussein.
Yeah.
That anti-war protesters
Yeah.
supported Saddam Hussein.
The trouble with Baghdad was that the fear never let up. You couldn't sleep at night because it was so hot, and they couldn't fix the aircon at the Al Mansoura Palace, a hideous place constructed of marble, crystal, and a medium-density fibreboard.
Sake!
And even if they had been able to fix the aircon, they wouldn't have gotten no electricity because no one seemed able to get the generators to work. And even if the generators had worked, the juice wouldn't have made it across town, seeing as people kept ripping up the copper cables and barbecuing off the plastic and melting down the metal. Yeah, compared to what you did to them, that's heinous, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then the self-same looters, or their relatives, came and screamed outside your compound and cursed America. Yeah, that's what happens when you occupy someone else's country. Again, how would Americans act if a foreign power just invaded them?
Yeah,
and
if only
occupied
there
them?
was a historical example. of that.
They
The
were nothing,
founding of the
they were
greatest
nothing
nation
but
on
fucking
earth.
looters, mate. Looters is what they
Yeah,
were.
exactly.
Ingrates.
As far as I'm
Ingrates,
concerned,
yeah.
as far
They're
as I'm
colonials,
concerned,
is
yeah,
what they are.
those colonies or states, as they like to like the so-called American states, like the so-called Islamic State.
Yeah.
I consider them still to be colonies, and I consider them to be owned by the King of England,
Hmm.
me.
Nigel Farage.
It's the true King of England, Danny Dyer.
Now watch right here.
No. Fuck.
That's not human. You can tell it's not human.
He's got evidence of aliens poking their head round a fucking window and having a pipe at him.
Garden of Eden, thought Jason after he had been there for 3 weeks. Call it hell on earth. Well, yeah, it is now, isn't it? Now that you're here with your fucking Humvee and your fucking gun.
Again, just one question for you, Boris. Who put this Saddam in charge anyway? Whose bright idea was that?
What cunt did that? Fuck you, Al. After a while, McDonald's did arrive in the barracks. They installed Coke machines. The troops' skin began to suffer. All the guys were getting seriously homesick, and they were only allowed 5 minutes per week on the phone.
But, you know, they had to be there
Yeah,
for some reason.
All of it might have been tolerable, however, had it not been for the streets. He hated the streets, walking among these skinny and malnourished people as though you were from an alien planet. You felt like Judge Dredd.
Yeah,
You
too
would
fucking
do.
right,
You
man.
would do, wouldn't you? Everyone was afraid of the guys with the mad eyes who ran in from the crowds and pop, 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 they fired, or kaboom, they blew their killer waistcoats. Waistcoat.
A waistcoat.
Yeah, suicide waistcoat.
Suicide waistcoats. Suicide tracky bomb.
Pickle had been standing on the mound outside the Al Mansoura Palace, watering his geraniums. Why are we even here?
Yeah.
Like, what is
Again, because he
this?
needs a reason to tell us that actually the Iraq War was... well, it's manifest destiny all over again.
Yeah. Actually, he wasn't watering them. He was diet coking them, since some clerk's error in the Pentagon meant they were supplied with more diet coke than bottled water. Eh? Yeah, I mean, that's going to kill them.
I'm sure that would kill them.
That would definitely kill them.
But, you know, that's all he knows how to do.
Yeah, he's an American fucking soldier.
He's an American. It comes naturally to them.
The geraniums liked Diet Coke, even if it was bad for people. And Jason just loved the way they grew, the way they responded to him.
Is he gonna fuck the plants?
He stroked their pinks and reds and whites that mimicked his sunburnt Germanic skin.
What is with this Germanic shit? Is he gonna get a pair of fucking calipers out and measure fucking skulls in a minute?
I fucking hope so.
Turn that page again. Oh, I spoke too soon. Yeah, he does it.
Anyhow, he was Diet Coke. Anyhow, he's writing a book. And he's
Anyway, as I was saying.
Anyhow, he was Diet Coking the blooms when the Humvee with Jerry Kuchma rolled up.
Jared Kuchner.
They were already yelling for help as soon as they came in sight, and when they braked, poor Jerry Kuchma's helmet rolled out into the yellow dust of the street. There was a big name tape stitched into the brim as if he were at school, saying that it belonged to Kuchma, blood type A neg. But Jerry wasn't going to be needing a transfusion now. You only had to look at the exit wound in his back to see the blood wouldn't stay inside him. The worst bit was when the English journalist came. Why the hell had he been picked to come to London, he did not know, he told his superiors.
What?
Is the flashback finished now, or what? He'd explained how it left him with a rancorous feeling of resentment towards anyone with one of those smooth-talking, freaking British accents. If Jason Pickle had been asked to do a word association test and you had said the word British, he would have said rat or fink or shithead.
Same.
So he was on geranium patrol a week after Jerry Kuchma died. Then this guy walks down the street towards him, a white guy wearing one of those special Geraldo Rivera Warzone waistcoats. Thing Jason really noticed about him was his hair. His hair was like an Old Testament prophet, all silvery and swept back.
His hair was like a prophet. His hair was not like a prophet's hair.
Yeah, his
hair was like the whole of a prophet.
But the detail that mattered, the thing Jason fixed his eye on with almost romantic excitement, was what was clamped to his ear. What?
Yeah, it's Barry Homeowner here. Ding dong, landlord here. Get out of my house. I'm selling it to a real man who can afford a mortgage. Ding dong, landlord here. I'm giving you 1 month's notice that you're a wanker. Picture nice, sir. It's a tax sort of shell for your savings and investments. The interest alone actually keeps me in lasagna for the whole year. It's a peach of a system.
Beautiful.
Imagine giving half your income to a landlord. You might as well just throw it in a big fire.
Exactly.
Yeah. Ding dong, landlord here. I want to inspect your bedding for tears. You renters tend to cry most at night when I'm at the casino.
It's fucking Barry Homeowner. He strolled into an Iraqi war.
The man was saying. Okay, I'll file 400 words about the scene of the American torture orgies. Okay, I understand. Listen, if you're tight for space, I'll just do 300.
Your wife's given me the old leave-a-rooney.
I'm so sorry to trouble you, began the reporter. My name is Barry White.
What? His name's Barry Homeowner.
His name's Barry White, but his name is Barry.
Barry Homeowner.
My name is Barry Homeowner. And I'm a reporter for the Daily Mirror of London, and I wonder if you would be so kind as to help.
I'm here from the Daily Mail of old London town.
I'm trying to track down General Axelrod. Hang on, he pretended to consult his notes. I'm sorry, Lieutenant Axelrod Zimmerman. I'm afraid I don't know Lieutenant Zimmerman, said Pickle. You'll have to consult with the media department.
Fucking line. I don't know Lieutenant Axelrod, said Pickle, watering his geraniums with Diet Coke.
You'll have to consult with the media department if you want to arrange an interview. No, it's all right, said the Moses-like reporter.
What? Moses? What does that mean?
I've just come from the media department and they say that Lieutenant Zimmerman would be expecting me here. Sir, I'm afraid I can't let anyone in here. This is Uday's palace, isn't it? The one they call the Love Nest.
Oh. They're going to bone down in Uday's Love Nest. Surrounded by gold AKs.
And geraniums.
Diet Coke geranium.
Dead geranium. If you want to see that stuff, you've got to get clearance. Haven't you all done that torture story anyhow? Well, there's just a detail I'd like to check, and I was told that Lieutenant Zimmerman... Tell you what, I'll ring them up now, and you can talk to them. Jason Pickle felt his mouth go dry. It was 6 days since he had talked to Wanda. The Brit was dialing the number, and then he was offering the phone to him. Jesus, he ached for a quick conversation. I'm really sorry, he said, but my regulations state that I may not talk in public on a civilian telephone. One of our guys was killed doing that. But that's absurd, said Barry White, with the look of a headmaster uncovering a case of fourth form bullying. Me and my fourth form chums thought it would be quite quirking.
Again, this is in the middle of a chapter from the point of view of an American soldier, and then this is it.
Yeah.
But then, when he wants it to be, it's in an accent.
Yeah.
Again, it's just bad writing.
Why don't we just nip in there and you can use the phone in private? That's when the disaster happened. What disaster? Asked Indira. But Jason looked brooding, and in her imagination she supplied the answer. It was the usual thing. Soldier rings home unexpectedly. Crack of dawn. Wife picks up. Sleepy male voice in background. Before this conversation could go any further, there was another noise, said Jason, outside the gatehouse he was supposed to be guarding. It was like someone quickly popping bubble wrap next to your ear. It was the shooting, the cheering. And then there was someone else yelling, almost screaming in English, that unless someone else stopped now and got out of the car, he was going to open fire. By this time, Barry White was running back outside, and Jason Pickle was following. When his ex-wife was later to sue the US Department of Defense for traumatic stress, it was on the grounds that he had failed to terminate the conversation, and she heard the whole thing. But now there was a new noise in Parliament Square. The first BMW 750 motorbike had arrived at the traffic lights by St Margaret's, the forerunner of the precursors, of the harbingers, of the outriders of the cavalcade. Wasn't that funny? A blue light flashed weakly in the sun. The cop waved a gauntleted arm. Cop? He's not a cop, he's a constable.
Medieval knight.
Yeah, the cop waved a gauntleted arm. Indira was glad of the interruption. And at this point, so the fuck am I.
His tough eaten ass. Is that you that's going to eat his ass? Are you going to eat his ass before you fuck his ass?
Well, I think it's only fun, isn't it?